In today's video, we're gonna, wait. Sorry about that. Had a little bit of a smudge on there. That's better. Like I said, in today's video, we're gonna be going over 5 things I hate about my Tesla. If it sounds interesting to you, or if you're in the market for a Tesla, then stick around. Let's get you the information you care about, and let's do it quick. If you're new around here, my name's Austin, and my job on this channel is to let you know the things that actually matter. I'm a typical guy, and I'm gonna try to keep it real with you. I'm not gonna be throwing a bunch of statistics at you and looking at everything on a deep micro level, because the majority of people that are watching this video just care about things that are fairly simple. Does it work? Is it functional? Will it last a long time? Those are the things I'm gonna be bringing to you. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into the video. 5 things I hate about my Tesla. I'm actually gonna be ranking this video from the thing I hate most to the thing I hate least. So the start of this video is really gonna tell you the things I hate most about my car. If you don't know, I own a 2019 rear-wheel drive Tesla Model 3, and I'll start it out with, I love this car. The car is amazing, and I don't think there's any other product out there like it. But it's not without its flaws. And the first flaw I'll bring up is summon. Summon is awful. Actually, let me get a little closer to this. Summon is awful, Tesla. Honestly, this feature is almost useless. It's really only good to have in an empty parking lot just to show off to your friends. There's really zero functionality in this feature. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to use this in a parking lot that's even half full and it just doesn't work. It gets way too close to other cars for you to be comfortable. A lot of times when I've tried it, I've ended up having to just release my finger off the button and just let it sit in the lane and waiting for me to come up to it. I don't even want to move it anymore because I'm afraid that it is going to back into another car. It gets ridiculously close. And honestly, the whole purpose of this feature, where you can bring your car up to the storefront whenever you're inside of it, if it's hot, if it's cold, if it's raining, whatever the case is, being able to bring your car up there is a major feature that would be amazing. And honestly, when there's no one in the parking lot, it's awesome. It works perfectly. But even in a lightly traveled parking lot, you do not want to use it. It is just bad. It doesn't detect cars very well. It gets way too close to cars where you think it's gonna hit. I'm not even sure that I won't hit them. I won't let it get close enough to test because I don't want to be using that feature and to hit someone and be liable for it. Also, this is a feature that's really hyped by Tesla and it just doesn't work. And honestly, they haven't seemed to give it any type of updates recently. Granted, I've only owned the car for about 4 months, but I can't remember any updates on this feature. It's something that in concept is so cool, but it doesn't seem like they're spending a lot of effort towards it. Also, one weird thing is I have to always try to summon on my app and it has to fail once. And then when I try to resummon it again, it'll work perfectly. So I've sent in a service request, but I never heard anything back from Tesla. I probably just need to delete the app and re-download it and see if that'll help. But that's definitely a bug that's pretty annoying. Overall, the car does a really good job of going through lines and trying to find a route to get to you. It does that well. Where it really struggles, and I'm sure you've gathered what I'm about to reference, is it just doesn't detect cars very well. And when families or people are walking down, I just stop it. I won't even let it get near there. I don't trust the feature enough to let it even get close to people. I think it's got a ton of issues and it really needs to be tweaked a lot before it's even relatively functional. That's easily the biggest gripe I have about this car because it's such a cool feature, but it's such a big letdown. Now, there was one thing that I forgot to mention when I was originally recording all of this footage. I forgot to add in the auto park with the summon. I'll say that auto park is also just as bad. Honestly, it's probably way worse in my opinion. I've only tried to use it a few times. There's been multiple times that I've tried to use it and couldn't get it to work. It doesn't recognize where spots are in the parking lot that are open to park in. Even if you troll past a spot, it just sometimes, actually a lot of the times, won't recognize it. So whenever I can actually get it to recognize a parking spot, it really worries me a little bit. And honestly, there was one time that it would have ran backed my car into a tree. There was a super easy parking spot where it just needed to back up into it, and it started backing up, and then it started going 90 degrees, and there was a tree and a curb to my left, and it started backing up into that. I had to stop it before it actually hit anything, but the fact that it would even do that is ridiculous. Like, that feature is just useless. The whole reason I didn't even mention it in my original recording was because of how obsolete it is. It doesn't matter, it's never used, it's an awful feature, and again, I haven't seen any type of support for it. I mean, I just don't know why anyone would ever use that feature. This doesn't work very well. The second thing I hate about this car is the rims. I got the premium rims on mine, but they are so prone to curb rash, it's ridiculous. Almost every single video I watched before I actually bought my Tesla, when they have these rims, they constantly get curb rash. I'm not sure if they just protrude out from the rim too much or what. I personally have never had curb rash on my rims, and I just had an incident happen a couple weeks ago where I scratched the side of my rim. It didn't actually get into the rim, but it got on the outside circle that kind of protrudes out a little bit. And from what I've researched, these rims will peel and have paint issues on them, and it's really unfortunate because they're actually good looking rims. But if I could go back, I probably would have got the other ones that have the hubcaps for two reasons. The first is they're gonna be more efficient. I believe they've said you get 10% more range out of them. And the second is, if you don't want the hubcap that gives you that extra range, you can take that off, and the black rims still look really good. And they seem to not protrude out near as much. The third thing is the paint on the car. I'll tell you, as someone who travels the interstate every day going back and forth to work, over time you will get rock chips. It's inevitable. On every single one of my Fords, you get rock chips here and there. But I'll say that I've had many of those cars for years, and I might only have one or two. On my Tesla, I had 3 solid months I was working from home because of the coronavirus, and I still have rock chips on my car. It really shows how poor the paint is. I don't know if it's just really thin or the clear coat is really thin. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but my next upgrade on the car is 100% going to be a clear coat type of self-healing paint that's gonna protect the front from rock chips. I've already seen multiple rock chips on my car. I mean, I'm gaining rock chips at a little bit of an alarming rate. Also, if you've done much research at all on Tesla, especially Model 3s, they have paint issues. Sometimes you'll have bubbles. I mean, overall, their quality control really needs to get a lot better. And I think that will probably happen over time. But as of right now, it's not great. Now, the fourth thing I hate about my Tesla is the arm cushions are so hard. It's actually ridiculous. For a car that supposedly has premium interior, the cushions on the door and the middle console are ridiculously hard. I mean, you're talking about a car that feels like a luxury car, but these armrests are just, well, they might be one of the hardest I've ever owned. I mean, I came from like a 99 and a 03 Ford Mustang. Like, everyone knows the interiors on those were awful, and the type of rubberish material they had on their middle console might have been comfier than this Tesla, and that's sad. And what really makes this even worse is that autopilot drives for you a lot of the times when you're on the interstates or major roads at all. You're gonna be setting your elbow right on that middle console. And then you're gonna put your hand on the steering wheel and you're just gonna sit there with some weight on the steering wheel and the car's gonna drive for you, which is great. But unfortunately, it really starts to wear on this bone right here, and even on in between the two bones on your elbow. I mean, I had a 2017 Ford Mustang, and its middle console seats felt like leather on top and then like a gel pad like this thick underneath. And you could set your arm there forever. It felt like what I would think a Cadillac feels like. It felt amazing. And going from that to this was really disappointing, simply because, as I spoke previously, your elbows are always sitting on these cushions as the car drives for you. And I mean, you're talking around 2 hours and it starts to wear really on your bone, and it's just like, I don't want my arm on there anymore. Like it makes you want to just like take your arm off of that and put it on and be in a weird like sitting position where you just rest your elbows on yourself or something. It's just, for a premium car that costs over $50,000, whenever you're talking about, you know, adding full self-driving and stuff, it's just not good enough in my opinion. So my number 5 on the 5 things that I hate about my Tesla, the nagging system. Look, I get it, you have to have a nagging system. It wouldn't surprise me if the government regulates that they have to have it, but just simply from a liability on their business standpoint, they've got to have it. I don't know what the formula is to it, but it's very hit or miss. And I find it really annoying, particularly on the interstate. Whenever I'm driving for hours, a lot of times there will be no one near me on the interstate, and the system is still bugging me. And I think what makes this really so disappointing is that autopilot is so good on the interstate. I mean, honestly, it's been near 100% perfect. Like, I really can't think of any major errors it's had outside of construction zones. And that's not its fault. There's so much changing in Texas and the way roads are with construction areas. So like, whenever it's your typical interstate without any construction, I've not had any issues with it. It's almost flawless. It's fantastic. It's one of the things I love. I'm gonna do a 5 things that I love about my Tesla, and it's gonna be on there. Autopilot is great on interstate. So with that comes the annoyance of a nagging system. When the system is almost flawless on the interstate, there's no one around me, and it's still nagging me every 15 to 30 seconds. And yeah, it doesn't feel like that's very often, but whenever you're constantly sitting there, and honestly, sometimes I'll have my hand on the steering wheel and it still nags me, and it's just like, ah! It's so annoying to have to constantly bump the steering wheel every 15 to 30 seconds, in particular when there's no one around me. If the system gets confused, if my car gets confused where lines are or what people are doing around it, then I totally understand it nagging me and say, hey, wake up, like really pay attention. I don't know what I'm doing right now. And it's done that before, which is great. I like that. But when there's no one around and it's going perfectly straight and there's no issues, I don't see why it has to nag me so often. I will throw in a disclaimer. It seemed that this had gotten better, like longer distances of time between nagging. But whenever they updated the software to include stopping at stop signs and red lights, it seemed to really bring that nag timer back down. I mean, it probably went from around a minute to 2 minutes down to every 15 to 30 seconds. And I assume that's because they're wanting to be really conservative and make sure people are paying attention to their surroundings and the red lights. And I understand for safety purposes, like they need this nag system. People don't need to be going to sleep or playing video games or whatever the case is. But it's just really disappointing whenever you're constantly having to mess with the steering wheel every 15 to 30 seconds, whenever you're going on a road trip that's really smooth, really easy, the car's having no issues at all, and a lot of times I'll have my hand on the steering wheel and it still does it. So yeah, that's my 5 things I hate about my Tesla. Like I said earlier in the video, I love my Tesla, it's amazing. But it's definitely got some things to work on. One of the things I love about it is it's gonna continue to get better. With software updates, it gets better and better and better, and I've seen that over the 4 months of my ownership. I believe in Tesla, and I'm really excited for the future. I just think that they need to make sure and work on some certain things like the summon. If you like this video though, and if it helped you out in any way, make sure and drop a like, subscribe, and leave a comment. What are your 5 things that you hate about your Tesla? Are you going to buy a Tesla? Feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions about Teslas. I make sure to read all the comments and to reply to you guys. I love y'all, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.